Good morning, everybody. Actually, it's probably afternoon by the time it uploads, but either way, it's morning for me, so it's fine. Today we are doing Kaylee, which is by KM Designs. I have not made it identical. I'm going to tell you that right now. I didn't do the little tuck up underneath, so it doesn't have like a more of a squared bottom. I did that for two reasons. Partially because I forgot at the time, but also because I've done all vinyl, this bit here is crazy thick. So I don't think that I could have been able to do that with that many layers. So I didn't. But apart from that, it is as the pattern says. So we've got this really cute front zipper pocket here, and then it's got card slots there. You've got a zipper pocket here. You've got a slip pocket with a magnet there. Now this here is not in the pattern. My vinyl I actually didn't have enough of, so I had to join two pieces. So I've turned it into like a fun accent with top stitching. So that's why that's there. And then on the inside, you've got two slip pockets and another zipper pocket as well. And I really, really love the D-ring attachments on the side with the little rivets. So if you would like to see how I've done this, please stay tuned. We're going to start with the strap because I've got a fresh bobbin in and I want to make sure that there's no joins if I can help it. So I've got double-sided tape down the center and I'm using vinyl. So I'm just going to fold it in half and then squish it down to the center. If you're doing fabric, you're going to want to hide your raw edges. But I'm doing vinyl and I'm doing a yellow thread today because I've decided that it really goes with the whole bell theme and the embroidery. So normally I wouldn't put yellow and brown, but I do think that it's going to be awesome. It's awesome in my head, at least. So we'll see how it actually turns out. Now this might actually lift this vinyl. So I'm going to get my little like plastic scraper and just scrape the edges to really make sure that it's got a nice crease, because the better the crease, the better the chances that it won't lift. So you just get it and you just kind of squish it down. I am putting a bit of pressure on that as I do it, but it's going to, stop it lifting before we get to the end. Otherwise you've got to come back and re-stick it all. Now this method that I'm doing where I pinch and push, it did take me about half a dozen goes to get fast at it, but I swear by it now. It is way quicker than doing one side at a time. It's also easy to get the center without drawing the line as well, because you get to look at both sides evenly so you can see that it's even. And you'll also notice I don't take all of the backing off straight away. I have learnt the hard way that when I do it like that, this end that we're not yet working on tends to get stuff stuck to it, whether it sticks to the table or it gets dust or whatever it may be. So I now do it one side at a time. So I'm just going to keep going and then squish it with the plastic squeegee thing. Now these are used to like apply stickers. So if you buy HTV from the Vinyl Loft, they have like a white one of these. I think I got this one at Bunnings, so it's in like the paint scraper section. So I'm nearly done. You want to make sure there's no gap either, because we're not putting anything over the top of this. We just want to make sure that it's going to be glorious. So I'm going to crank my stitch length all the way up to 4, and then I'm going to stitch, back stitch, and then I'm stitching 1/8 of an inch from the join in the center. And that sounds wrong. This is why you shouldn't back stitch with a new bobbin. Happens every time at the moment. New bobbins do not like back stitching. So most of this will just pull out because it's got issues. That first little bit was actually fine. So what happens is the bobbin gets like a loop. You probably can't see it because it's yellow and I'm wearing yellow. Wasn't the smartest decision of my day. So the way that I prevent this, if your machine does this a lot, it's probably my error. And it's probably not the machine, especially considering it just got fixed. So the way I combat this is I'm going to stitch 3, then I'm going to lift it up and go back through the first hole and stitch over those stitches. And that locks them in the same as a back stitch without actually having to hit the back stitch thing. Now only do that as fast as you can. There is no official speed that needs to happen. So don't think that you have to do it as fast as me. If you're new to that, slower is better. And I'm just trimming off those tails. And then I'm just going to jump to the other side. Do the same thing. 1, 2, 3. And then go back to the start because I don't want to backstitch and jinx myself. Now the reason I can go so fast is my fingers are firmly holding it so it goes directly under where I need it to. So by holding my fingers like that, it was almost like a jam, and so then it could slide through. So down here it was all wavy, but as soon as I got to my fingers, they were being held correctly in place. So now, that's the strap. So the yellow does still look nice. So I'm going to grab my strap adjuster and I'm going to put this around the middle bar, and the side with the join goes on the bar. And then I'm going to do my zigzag stitch, which isn't mine. I didn't make it up. I just call it mine. You could also just put some rivets if you want to. Whatever suits the look that you're going for. If you don't have rivets, this is a great alternative. But the rivets would give it like a different kind of a polished look, I guess. So now I'm going to put this with the join side up so that you can see the line. And then I'm going to grab a swivel clip and we're going to put the flat edge on the join edge. And then bring it back. And by doing it like that, I can see I've got no twists, and then go up and down like this. And then again, we're going to put the join side on the flat side, bend it over. Also got to trim off those tails. And then I'm going to do the same zigzag as again. Now, I always start up against the hardware because then you won't overstitch. See that? I rest the back stitch then. It's fine now because the bobbin's not totally full. Needle down and then pivot diagonally up and backstitch. Trim off all of the tails and your strap is done, so now you can pop it aside. Back in the tub. Next up we are doing strap connectors. So again, I've got all of mine, I've printed out the pieces, and then I have just clipped everything together to make it easier to get to everything all at once. I've got my tub sitting on my bin because there's only so much space that I have. And so then I'm going to put double-sided tape down the center, and you can just butt one up against the other and just do it in one big line. And then come along here, and you can even bend it over so that you can cut it in half easily. Then I'm going to peel off the backing, fold it into the center like so, and I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch from the outer edge because it's quite thin anyway, so it's all good. like that. Oop, that's a little bit crooked by the way I've stuck it. And that's the beauty of double-sided tape. If you do it wrong, just pull it off, fix it. Right. So I'm not going to backstitch on these. Or am I? No. Because I'm going to go all the way around instead. So then when you get back to the start, what you can do, here's just one other alternative, is you can now grab the edges, so the two front ones, and tie them in a double knot. And that will knot them off, and you'll have no backstitch looking anything. You'll just have like this tiny little knot, and then you trim it off right at the base. And from the outside, you can barely see that. So I'm going to do the same thing with the back ones. So this is one of those few times where I actually want tails. So that you can tie it off like that. And there's one strap connector. Now I'm using 20mm or 3/4 of an inch D-rings for this, and that's how it's going to sit. So I'll pop that in the tub. Make sure I've got tails. I'm going to hold on to them to make sure they stay. And then we're going to sew all the way around. Needle down to pivot across the end. Needle down across the end and pull out some tail, and then I'm going to knot them again. So this is just another option. I'm trying to remember to do different stuff in videos. Otherwise, I'm not teaching you anything. We can't have that. This is also really neat because you will see all the edges because this goes on the outside of the bag. It's actually one of the last steps we're going to do, but I'm going to make them now because I'm trying to follow the pattern the way the pattern says to do stuff. And then trim off the tails. There's your other one. If you need to remember what it's for, you can just thread the D-ring in so it's not a problem for later. Back in the tub. So now we need zippers. So I'm going with yellow, obviously, because I've got the whole yellow bell theme going for her glorious dress. So we want to measure off the zip that we need. And I'm also going to singe the ends, both of them, so that they don't misbehave. I also think my lighter's nearly out of fluid. That's annoying. Then we need this zip. Again, I'm going to singe the ends. And okay, so they say put the zipper pull on the small one. Oh, that's got damage. I'm going to throw that out. So this must have been one of those damaged pieces. The reason I'm not using it is, as you can see here, you see how it's got like some discoloration? I don't want that on my bag, so it's gone in the bin. You may think that's wasteful, but I don't think it is. I think my lighter just died. And I don't have a backup sitting next to me, so I might have to go and get one of those. In the meantime, I'm going to thread the zipper pull on like that. So we're using heart zippers because I just think it's going to be adorable. And then we need to put 2 zippers on this zipper tape. If you're deciding to use metal zipper tape, make sure you get this metal stuff that goes where you can put the zips on both ways. There's different types of metal zipper, so it doesn't work just automatically with all zippers. So if you are using your metal zipper tape, make sure you're using the one that can be threaded from both sides, because most metal zipper tape, you can only put a zipper one way. And I don't think I've ever told you that before. I also don't use metal zipper tape. Zippers on, together in the middle. I've made sure that nothing is bulging because that is important. And this one kind of is. So I'm going to fix it. It was only by one tooth, and I probably could have left it and nobody but me would have known. But it's not happening today. You need to make sure they go in perfectly evenly. Or if you cut them where one's bigger than the other, then do them that way. There we go. See how there's now no bulge? Makes them even. Awesome. I'm going to leave that zipper tape for later because we are going to need some more. So we are now going to take this one and the double zipper pocket ends. That's what the piece is called. And we're going to put right sides together on the widest end. So it does kind of narrow down. So we're going to put this on here and I'm going to use 2 clips to hold it in place. And then I'm going to do the same to this end. Like that. 2 clips again. So the 2 clips will help it from twisting and being out of shape. So we're going to stitch. I'm just checking the stitch length, so the seam allowance. The seam allowance is important because if you do it what the pattern doesn't say, then you're going to get a different end result. So, under we go. I'm going to stitch. I'm going to back stitch and hope that it doesn't mess up on me. Then I'm going to swivel this one round and I'm just going to chain stitch the second one. Because I am all about efficiency and that was pretty good. Then I can snip this off, trim off those tails, pull both of these back, and then I'm going to top stitch. So we can go back up to a decorative top stitch, and we're going to top stitch. We're going to do the same to this one. So again, pull it back and top stitch. And that was a very efficient way to have basically no tails. Now I can pull it out. So there we go. 1 top zipper. Next up, we're taking this one and this one. Oh no, we need to do another one. Hold on. This one's for the interior zipper. So I need another one for the top zipper. And I have a ruler on my table, which is what I'm measuring things with. Don't just think I'm guessing. As much as it may look like that, I promise I'm not. So again, we need a zipper pull on here. Half in, other half in. Look down the center and make sure that they're even. And then just push and then pull it around your finger and wiggle. These ones go on really easy. Oh, spoke too soon. See that? Didn't match up. Now I've got a completely open zipper. So now that I've done that, which was silly of me, I should have just gone back off. So now what I do is I'm going to join it, pull it all the way off, and then do it again. Right? Join the zip back together, then crack it. We want it to stop roughly in the middle. So if you accidentally go all the way off, just go and thread it back on again. It's the beauty of zipper tape. There we go. Right. So then we're going to take our front pocket zipper ends because that is what is written on here. And I'm going to put one right sides up. So the right sides of the fabric are facing the zip on both ends. And again, we're going to do that. And then we're going to put this one on like that. And I'm being honest, with the print of this, I'm not really too worried which direction this is. Nobody's going to see it, but it's just to hide off that zipper tape. So it's a necessary piece, but nobody's ever going to look at it. So I don't actually care what direction that particular pattern is in. Not going to lie to you. Cool. And then we're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to back to a joining stitch length. See, back stitch is fine now. It just doesn't like it with a full bobbin. Silly machine. And yes, I am aware that I meant to hold them, the threads, to stop it having issues. Such is life. Back up to a decorative stitch length. Pull both sides back. And then we're going to top stitch. And then we're going to do the same to this one. Voila! So I think that's all our zippers that we need. Oh no, I lied. There's another one. Right, got myself some more zipper tape. So this is for the bag closure. So I'm actually not going to put this zipper pull on yet. But what I do have to do is pull this apart and bend down these edges. And I'm just going to baste them in place. Like so. You don't need to do too much. That was probably overkill, if I'm totally honest with myself. Yep. So bend it over. Make sure that they line up, because that is also quite important. You don't want to have odd-sided zipper. Because it makes it harder later when you're going to put the zipper pull on if you've made them crooked. You can fix it if you have. Don't get me wrong. It's just a little bit more tricky. Okay. Zipper, zipper. We've got lots of zippers going on. So I actually have decided that I'm going to go inside to outside because I have a lot of pieces going on for the inside. Actually, we're going to start with the back piece. So I'm going to put all the zippers in the tub. And we're going to grab the back piece. So for the back piece, that's where I've put my logo. Because I didn't want to put it on the front. That's where the other cool bit is. So I've put this at the back towards the bottom. So you've got to remember that there will be seam allowance and that should be high enough. I am hoping. Then we are going to grab a magnetic snap, which I have here. And I'm using the normal ones, not the rivet ones today, just because. So you get 2 little gaskets and the magnet. So on the right side of the back top. So the back top is the other piece. Here we go. So it's got the placement dot for you, and I love that. Now I don't actually need to puncture that hole, but what I am going to do is puncture my pen through the pattern and then scribble on the marking. Like that. And then I can grab a gasket, and the middle hole in the gasket lines up with the center point that you just did, and then you just draw the 2 lines on either side. Now if you're using fabric for this, once you've cut it, you're going to want to put some fabric glue or fray stopper. Spotlight no longer sell fray stopper, so I've bought some clear fabric glue to use from now on. It is still the same brand, so it's still Helmar, but I'm going to use fabric glue from now on. But this particular thing doesn't actually need it. So all of that was kind of for nothing. Back top, and we want to put the female portion in. So we're going to put the thicker one of the 2, push that in there, flip it over, put our gasket into the prongs, which should line up perfectly because we use them as a guide to cut them. And then I bend the prongs out like this. So that's how it sits. Now, place the back right side top with slip pocket lining. So we need to grab a slip pocket lining, front pocket lining and slip pocket lining. So it's one of the 4 that we've cut. I'm going to grab one of those. And so now you want to think about which way is directional. And we're going to put these right sides together. Now I'm going to clip this because this vinyl is super slippery. This is a faux leather or faux leatherette or something from Spotlight. It's about $40 a meter for those that wish to know. I bought some when it was on sale. And so then we're going to back to a joining stitch length. Stitch, back stitch, forward stitch. Now you are getting close to the magnet. And if you're worried that your foot won't go past the magnet, you should stitch this first and then install the magnet. But you should mark the magnet holes first. So mark the holes, stitch it, then install the magnet so that you don't have any dramas. I've got a skinny foot, so I don't have those issues, but I'm just letting you know that if you've got a thicker foot, like on a domestic machine, I would mark those holes, stitch it, then come back and actually install the magnet. Alright, and then we're going to top stitch. So I'm going to top stitch on the fabric. I can go up to a top stitch length, which today is 4, because I've decided I really want to see that yellow. And back stitch. Sweet. Place the slip pocket to top, right side, back, bottom. This one. Where are we at? Bottom. And then I want, hang on, turn right sides out, did that. Place slip pocket, right sides up. So I need another one of these. So we need 2 slip pockets. If you've cut these super fancy, just think about which one you're grabbing. I have just generically gone ahead and cut because this is a very busy print. This is also from Spotlight for those that wish to know. I remember now. I had to cut a second piece because I actually ran out of this vinyl. So I was supposed to say that at the start. So what I'm going to do is attach this, and I've just allowed a seam allowance because I didn't have a big piece. I had like a long skinny one, but I was just really determined to use this. So what I actually had to do, because like this, I couldn't understand why I've got all these random pieces. So I have to join these together so that it creates the size piece that I actually need. Because I ran out. And I wanted to do this on camera rather than beforehand to show you that you can still make cool stuff even if you run out of stuff. So now I want to grab that plastic scorer. Where did I put it? Did I put it back? No, don't be silly. It's on the floor. Right. So I want to get this and I want to open this up and I'm going to score it down. And then I'm going to just top stitch both sides of this. So this will just be basically an unnecessary accent. But I'm doing it because otherwise I had to pick a different vinyl and I didn't want to. So long as this is the same size as the pattern that's needed, it didn't matter how many. I could put like random joins and it wouldn't matter. So again, I'm going to go up to my decorative stitch length, and I'm just going to top stitch both sides of the line to make it super decorative. Because if we're going to do it, we may as well show it off. A random line here without top stitching would look weird, but with top stitching, it looks like an accent. It's way cooler. And then flip it around and go back the other side. Again, I'm pushing down with my fingers to make sure that that's sitting flat while I'm stitching it. Like so. Right. So now it's got like a cool, fun accent. Now it's the right size, I think. Cool. So now I'm going to grab my, what's it called? Slip top. It's piece AB, which is a slip pocket top. And again, it's got the connector placement. So we're going to do the same thing again. And we're going to take a pen and line it up, stab a hole through the paper that goes all the way through to the vinyl. Because I don't actually need the hole to go all the way through. I just need to be able to mark it, and that's the easiest way to do that. And then we're going to take the gasket from your magnet and lay it over the top and stitch and, or not stitch, sorry, draw. And then we need our craft knife again to cut those two lines that we just made. And then, so I'll show you what I meant before. So now that I've done all that, you could install the magnet, or if you're struggling, we can just attach this now and then go back and put the magnet in. So line it up, stitch, back stitch, off we go. And then that way your foot's not in the way when you're trying to go past the magnet. And then we can snip off the tails up to a decorative stitch length, which again today for me is 4. I usually only go to about 3 3/4, but I just decided 4 is the number of the day, I guess. And then pull that out. And then you can install your magnet. So that way it wasn't in the way for any of the stitching issues. Not that this would have been anyway, it's right in the center, but I'm just making a point for the other one. And so now that should clip on there, like so. Then we're going to take, not that, our decorative back bit, which now has these lines. So when it's sitting out, it's now going to look like this, which is still cool. And now I get to use what I want. And I have a sneaking suspicion I've done something incorrect. I have. That's okay. So, put these right sides together. My lining piece is too long, so that's probably my dodgy cutting, so ignore that. So we're going to clip along the top edge. And you want all your clips to face the right way. Like this. So this is possibly just an incorrect seam allowance on my behalf. But it can be fixed, so it doesn't matter. And then top stitch together. You can fix almost any problem. So the fact that one's longer than the other actually isn't an issue, so long as the magnet lines up. That's what we care about. And I just ran out of bobbin thread. I knew it was coming, I could hear it, but here is one I prepared earlier because I anticipated that it would take more than one bobbin. It's actually probably going to take 3, but I've only wound 2. Which is also okay. Every time I pick up a bobbin, I unintentionally over-unwind it. So one full rotation will pull your bobbin thread to the top. And then we'll just go back and finish off that section that didn't get stitched the first time. Trim off all the tails and throw them in the bin and not on your skirt. And so then, before I just flip it over, I'm actually going to lay this out flat and finger press that open. Because then when I pinch it, it's easier to get that seam to sit directly at the top. Like that. And I'm going to grab some clips to just kind of hold it right on that edge. This is also helping form the crease. You could also, if you needed to, do a Tory squish like this. I'm just going to use clips. Apparently I'm going to do both, but that's okay. Different fabrics will work differently. If you've done an all fabric one, then iron this down. And then again, I'm just going to come and top stitch along there. I assume that's what I'm doing. It is. Excellent. Put it on top stitch length might help. Now the magnet's right in the middle, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. But again, if you are concerned, you could have done all of this stitching and then go and put the magnet in at the end. But it is just something to be conscious of. So depending on the foot size, mine's 1/4 inch each side, so I tend to have very little issues. But wider feet are going to have issues with that magnet part. So the solution to that is to install it now, right before we're going to base this on. So if I attach that to the magnet like this, you should then be able to come along and clip it all together, and you will see that my lining is just a little bit bigger, which could be a whole range of reasons why. The point is the magnet lines up, and if I cut off this extra little piece here, then the top and bottom will line up. So I can just cut that off. Don't be afraid if it's sitting there. As long as it still lines up at the end, doesn't matter if you have to cut it off. I can even cut that straight. Look at me go. Let's try that again. You could also baste it first and then trim off the excess, but I'm going to baste all of this together now. So you can even start from a corner to make sure it's all lined up. And then up the sides. Make sure your clips are facing the correct way. Along the bottom. You could have also put more embroidery on the back. Obviously I put my logo, but you could put, you know, a counterpart, like if you had Beauty and the Beast or the Rose or something. But I kind of like the little accent that's going on. It worked out flukishly well, is all I'm going to say. It was not an intentional design. It's a design flaw, but only I would have known that if I hadn't have said anything. This is also a good way to use up smaller bits of leather. If you've got lots of leather or even vinyl and you wanted to do like a rainbow colored bag, just sew them all together until you get the size piece you need. Almost like a scrappy quilt. Same basic principle. So now that I've basted that, it's now a one piece and won't shift on me. Voila, back is done, and so now we should have a magnetic snap slip back pocket thing. So we can put that aside. We're going to do the front piece last, I've decided, because I can. So now we are doing a zipper stay, what's that for? Alright, we are going to need our lining pieces because we're doing that next. And these are our slip pockets. So the slip pocket should also have a vinyl trim. Now, if you were making this out of fabric instead of vinyl, all you need to do is make it twice as wide and half an inch longer. And the reason for that is then you can fold under the half-inch raw edge at each end, and instead of just folding this in half like I'm going to, you would fold it in half and then in half again, and then you'd hide all raw edges and you'd still be able to use fabric for your accent parts. Right. So, we're going to fold these in... Do we stitch first? We do. So we're going to fold them in half right sides together first, and then we're going to stitch each side with a joining stitch length. So we're going to start here, back stitch. Come on, there we go. And I'm going to do it to both of them, so I may as well just chain stitch them so I have less tails. So I'll just put the second one in. Now, I always, with these, like to stitch from open edge down to the fold, because then it will just make itself even. There, flip it over, top to bottom, off we go. Like that. I will then just trim the excess fabric here and here so that it's going to sit nice and flat. There, 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 and there. And turn this one out as well. Now I'm pushing my fingers all the way into the corner, and I'm doing this so that I can then use my thumbs to point out those edges so that hopefully it's going to sit beautifully. And if not, I can just poke my finger back in there and get it to sit out. Either way, we get there eventually. So then this is going to sit in half over the edge like so. You may or may not want to iron this first. I'm just going to finger press it so it's nice and flat. You also want to make sure that the seams at the side are all the way out and not bowing inwards, because then you won't get a nice straight line when you stitch them down. Okay. There we go. Love it. So this is the right sides up, obviously. So I'm going to fold this in half and finger press, or even get my little spatula scraper, because apparently I'm all about the scraper today, and I'm going to score the halfway line. This is going to make it easier when I try and put the fabric in between, because it will already have the halfway line scored, so it's more likely to sit there. Now obviously it won't sit perfectly, but if you can see how it's now got that fold? So now when I put this over here like this, it folds in half easy. Well, easier. So I'm going to go up to a decorative stitch length, which again I'm up to 4. And then I'm going to slot this down, fold it in half, and stitch along the top. And then when I get to the end of the fabric, I'm going to do a little back stitch. Now, this is stretchy, so it's possibly just stretched. But either way, we then just chop off the excess at the end and the tails. And so now you have a slip pocket with a cool accent. We're going to do the same to the second one. So again, I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to get my little scraper and scrape it to help form that halfway fold. Now you can do this with all vinyl and leather. If it was fabric, obviously you could just iron it in half. I mean, you could still scrape it if you wanted to, but ironing's probably more efficient for you. And then I want to make sure that I've got the print the right way up. So in my pocket, the inside of the pocket's actually going to be upside down, which is okay. It's not the end of the world that that's happened, but we just need to think about that. So you want to make sure that this is the top of the print, or you could use something non-directional, which would then solve that problem. So like the waterproof canvas is non-directional, so you could just do whatever. I just decided this would suit better. And then get to the edge and backstitch. Trim off those tails. And then I'm going to trim off the excess. And I got a little bit there. And there's our second slip pocket. So now we need to take a lining piece. We're going to install a zipper pocket, which is E and J. So we've obviously just used the parts before. Now, I'm going to do this a Tory pocket way. And the simplest way to do that is to tape these both right sides up. Now, because this is directional, this is actually how I would do a Tory pocket. I would chop it in half. You could chop it in half and then stitch it and then continue on. She's got a pocket stay, which I didn't cut out, which is why I'm not doing it that way. Apparently, I got a little bit ahead of myself when I was prepping this bag. So now it's one piece, and I can pick which side I like better. So I kind of like this side better. So I'll put my zipper pocket template piece on this side. So we grab our template. And I'm going to put it on. So the only downside to the way I'm doing my zipper pocket is that the zipper's not squished between both layers. And I did like that, but I forgot to cut the zipper stay. So this is where we're at. So I'm going to take this, line this up, and she's got the measurements. So we want to put it right up near the top. So I'm going to get a ruler to make sure that I put it at the top. Like so. Line that up like that. And that is where I'm going to put it. So now I'm going to stitch, backstitch, backstitch, swivel, up and over, backstitch, trim all of the tails and the jump stitch, and then grab some scissors, pinch this so I can snip in between. And you'll notice I put my fingers on the edge of the snip, or the zipper, no, scissors, there we go. And that is to make sure that we get a nice cut all the way to the end. Sometimes your hands can't do it by themselves, so putting pressure on the edge of the scissors will help a lot. Apparently I've lost the ability to speak. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm going to press this up. Press this flat. And then push that through. My brain just had a moment then. It couldn't figure out what was going on. I think I need sustenance. All right, so now that I've done that, I'm just going to finger press it. Down like this. And so now the zipper goes in here. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. This one. So the one with no ends on it is what we're going to be using. But this is not the right size for the way I've done my zipper. So I'm just going to cut some more. And I won't throw out that other piece because there's nothing wrong with the actual zipper tape. So that will be used in another bag at another time. Because I'm clearly just all about hoarding of the zippers. So I'm going to have my zipper closing to the left, as I always do. I'm going to lay this down on top, and then I'm going to top stitch around the whole thing. So the downside to the way I do zippers is that you will see the zipper tape on the inside, but the upside is they're quick. Whereas the one that's actually in this pattern, the zipper would be wedged between the two layers. You wouldn't see the zipper tape from the inside. I just didn't cut out a piece of stabilizer, which was very silly, I know. I think I got sidetracked with the embroidery when I was prepping this bag. Clearly, because I forgot that I had to join things and everything. And that does happen. Stuff does get away from me. Nobody's perfect. But this will still look good. You'll just see the zipper from the inside. But what I might do is I might take the method from this bag and put it in my next video. So you'll still see it. I'm going to turn my bag through here. Or maybe the outside one. Oh, it's a hard decision. No, I might turn it through the lining. So I'm going to turn my bag through this particular zipper because I can pick. It's my bag, I do what I want. So I'm not going to stitch the bottom of this pocket closed. Sweet. So that is the zipper pocket now complete. And it's a nice big zipper pocket, which will be quite easy to turn that bag through there. So now I'm going to pull all of that zipper up out of the way. And we're going to measure down. And then we're going to add this pocket, I believe. Yes, we are. And then I'm going to add the other slip pocket to the other side because that feels like a good plan. So I'm just going to line that up, make sure that everything is even. That is definitely not even. That looks more even there. So I've lined it up in the center. And then I'm going to top stitch around the three sides that don't have vinyl. Needle down and pivot. Needle down, pivot, up last side, and back stitch. And I made sure that was out of the way, so now I haven't stitched my pocket, and I've got a nice little slip pocket there. On the other side, I'm going to grab my other lining piece and my other slip pocket. And that way is right sides up. And I'm just going to line it up at the same point so that everything is matching. Now, obviously, you don't have to do this. You could have one higher or lower, but I feel like symmetry is going to really work in my favor in this particular instance. That's just my personal thoughts on the matter. So, we're going to stitch. I'm going to lift up and go back through. Down the side. Along the bottom. Up the other side. And I'm going to split this pocket in two. I haven't decided if it's half or not yet. That's why I just stopped to think and paused. So I don't need two pockets the same size. So I think I'm going to do about 2/3 to 1/3 ratio, and I'm going to eyeball that. I'm not going to lie. You could also, if you wanted to, get a ruler. So I'm doing mine at approximately 5 inches. For anyone that's interested. Now you don't have to split it, but that side could now be used for pens, or if you carry like protein bars, you could slip it in there as your, on the train snack or whatever. And that will now fit like a muesli bar. So for me, obviously, I would put a muesli bar because I keep going on about them. And then that's like a good size for a phone. So you could slip your phone in there for easy access, snack in that one, and so on and so forth. So there my inside's done. Now let's go do the pocket that everyone's scared of, because why not? I don't think it's that scary. I think it looks amazing. All right, I'll pop all of that in there. So we're going to need, obviously, that one. And our front. And our fun accent bit. Sorry about that. I needed some food. So I also had to get my iron ready because we're about to do some ironing. So we're going to start with the card slots. Now, it does say to cut a 5-inch piece of interfacing, and I've just done it the full way, but that's because I didn't read the instructions properly and I was having a lazy moment. So the instructions have the measurements. So we're going to line up the ruler and draw a line all the way across. And all the way across, just make sure that it's going to be straight, because that's obviously important to us. And then at that line, we're going to take one of our interfacing strips, and we're going to take, this is where it's about to get real hectic. This is why we did it last, because I need more stuff. So then I'm going to take the strip and put it just under the line, like this. And then grab my mini craft iron and hope that the cord reaches. And line it up in the center. And then we're going to iron that down. So we're doing it just below the line. Also, probably don't use friction texture because it's going to come off. That was not smart on my behalf. Right. So I'm just going to go back in and draw that line with a normal pen so it stays where it's told. Cool. So then it's got the next measurement. So then we need to go down to there. Draw another line. I'm going to make sure it goes all the way across. And then I'm going to take another strip and we're going to put it just below that line. So this will fold over is the plan. So this is just a little mini crafting iron I got from Aldi like ages ago when they had some sewing stuff. It does have a steam option, although I don't really use it for the steam. You do have to hold this for a long time because it is stabilizer and it is thicker. So then that's 2. So then we have to go down again. So the idea is, right, that this piece of stabilizer is going to make it easier for us to fold our edges, which is really quite clever when you think about it. I don't think I've ever seen a pattern that does that. Also, make sure that your stabilizer is ironed on correctly. I don't think mine had enough time under the heat. Okay. So then again, we're going to go down to here. Going to make sure that that is straight because it is very important that it is straight. I'm going to draw my next line. And then down again. You can actually draw all of your lines and then come back to it at the end. Now, I've got a join here in my stabilizer because I did it across instead of vertically up and it didn't quite reach. Such is life. So now I can grab my other 3 pieces. So you should have 1 for each of the lines that you need to draw. And then I'm just going to hold the iron on there and do it. What? That nearly fell off the table then. Now you hold it for as long as you need to. Different irons go to different temperatures. So I can't officially tell you how long is good enough. It's just until it won't lift. Because this is like cardboard and it is a non-woven. So it will lift if you don't do enough ironing, which is, you know, whatever. This other one up here is lifting a little bit, and then we'll just do this last one there. There's actually no PowerPoint near where I sit. I've just got power boards and extension leads that come to me. I'm just going to let it sit. You can put pressure, but it doesn't do a whole lot. There we go. I'm going to pop that over there so I don't burn myself on it. So now we've got them all ironed on. I can start folding them over and then ironing them down. I've got way too many pairs of scissors going on here. Right, so fold that over and then iron the crease because it's going to help. Right, and then we'll come to the next one and I'll fold that one. So I'm not worrying about the other crease just yet. I'm just making sure I get all of these creases in nicely. So if we just do it one step at a time, it works out much easier for everyone. So again, we're just gonna iron this. Oh, where's my other bit? Right, that came off. I clearly did not iron that long enough because it just came off. So we'll try that again. Alright, I'm actually going to hit pause on the video. I am going to iron and fold all of these at the crease and then I'll show you how to line them up. I have now creased all of those. So I'm going to start here. Actually, now we need to top stitch them all. Now you can skip the top stitching if you want to, but I'm all about the yellow today. I'm going to put my eye in where I won't burn myself because it feels pretty important not to do that. So I'm going to go up to my decorative stitch 4, size 4 stitch length. And then stitch along there. Make sure that's folded. Now, they're too stiff to put one after the other, so I will have to trim it off and then do the next one, but that's okay. So again, I'm just doing my normal top stitching. I'm not back stitching because all of these edges get tucked away in a second anyway. And I went with black because my print was very, very busy. So this is just kind of going to break it up in that pocket a little bit. Right. So now all the pockets line up 1/2 inch under each other. Grab a skinny ruler, hold it, line it up like that, and then I'm going to clip it. And that already shifted. See? Black was clearly not the smartest plan I've ever had. That's okay. Hold the ruler in place and then just clip it. And then we're going to move up to the next one. And so on and so forth. Like this. Up. Clip. Up against it and then clip. You want to make sure this is even because you want it to look pretty. Whoop. And then to there. Oh, see, that's looking lovely. And that little bit of stabilizer under there really helps. Not gonna lie, I really enjoy that. And realistically, you could do that step at kind of the start of everything. Okay, what's happened here? Something's going on. Then I can just add that into all of those clips. Like so. That's a lot of clips. But you get the idea. So I'm now going to baste from bottom to top up both sides. And the reason she says to keep the interfacing out of the side seams is so it doesn't become too thick for your machine. Because otherwise that is quite thick at that side there. I mean, my machine can handle it, but if you're in a domestic, definitely don't be lazy and definitely keep it out of that side seam. There we go, card slips. So now we need to take the one that we've put our stabilizer on. I did do this bit of stabilizer, and we're just going to cut in. Like this. I'm just going to cut out all of that and into those corners. Like that. And I'm going to take some double-sided tape. Now, she does have exact measurements for doing that, but I'm just kind of winging it. It will do the same thing. I might just have an excess and I'll have to trim it down, but that's okay too. So I'm going to put some double-sided tape everywhere. Like this. Smooth it down. Peel off the backing. And then we pull it back like this. And the double-sided tape is holding it. You could also iron it, but I definitely feel like double-sided tape is going to be your best friend for this. Like so. And then from the outside, we have this beautiful frame. See how we're going with that? I actually have a little bit too much here, but that's okay. Cool bananas. So I am now going to find the center of this. And using a Chaco pen, because I'm in black and otherwise I won't be able to see it, I need to mark the center. I think I cut mine too long. Well, obviously I cut mine too long, but I think, I don't know. I did something crazy somewhere. Now, I am going to stitch this again, bottom to top, so that I go up the bulk and not down it. Right. And so now we've got our separate card slots. So I'm going to get some more double-sided tape to this so that I can stick it on here. You just want to make sure it's probably out of your seam. So I'm going to put it there. I'm going to put a bit at the top. I'm layering up the double-sided tape, but for the most part, I'm not actually going to be stitching through it. It's just there for support. Otherwise, you could clip it in place as well. Nope, that end doesn't want to come off, so you just switch to the other side. One side will always want to come off easier than the other. Right, so then I'm going to line this up like so. And push it down. And then I will be trimming off this excess at the bottom that I very clearly should not have had. Ta-da! Right, I imagine I am now going to top stitch this. So I'm going to start here. Did I run out of bobbin thread? Oh, I did. Of course I did. All right, we need another bobbin redone. So now I'm just going to top stitch right around the edge. Needle down, pivot. That bit's skinny, so I can go a little bit faster. My machine can handle this, so it's not too bad, but you should definitely keep that interfacing out, so that will be definitely easier to do. Now we have a solid piece. So now we are up to the joining. Now, I have just used a lot of the same, really. That's okay. So, we want to find the center mark of everything. I'm going to zip this open to make it easier to find my center mark. And then I'm going to mark it with a friction pen. Or maybe zipping it up easier. Now that I've got 2 zips on, I can kind of just move them around as I need to. So we're going to mark there. And... come on, mark. There we go. Right. Center of the zip on both sides. And then I'm just going to fold this. Now I did put stabilizer on the back of this so it stays stiff. It also helped with the embroidery process. I did get a little bit of bubbling, so what I did after it was finished stitching is I shoved it under the iron and steamed it from the back to help re-squish it out. Because that's a real sentence. Right, so center, 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 and the center line on this is where that is. And so now, are we starting with the back piece or the front piece? I'm going to start with the front piece. I'm going to zip this open because it's going to make it more flexible to be allowed to go around seams. So we're going to put right sides together and we're going to use a lot of clips. So I'm going to start here and work my way out. I like a nice 3-clip start. And then I'm going to get to there and I'm stopping and I'm going to come down to this edge here and then clip my way up. Oh, I think I hear a package being delivered. I hear a car at least. So then again, I'm just going to add lots of clips in this corner, or curve, whichever way you want to look at that. And then come down to this side and do the same thing. So bottom to top. Basically, we want to just make sure that everything is going to sit in here nicely. And I always do 1 full piece and then I can add in the backing piece if I need to. I don't try and do all 3 at once. It is borderline impossible and it is super fiddly and I don't like doing it. Now it does fit, but at the curve the zipper may look like it's gone a bit weird. Don't worry about that, it's fine. Weird zipper is normal. We're trying to go around a curve. So there's one bit. Then I am going to sandwich the zipper and add one of my backings. Which for me is all just the same fabric, really. These clips are also all round backwards. I want to stitch it with the lining side up because it's going to be easier to feel where those zipper teeth are. I can definitely hear a car outside my house, but it might not be for me. So I'm just adding it in to all of the clips. The center one should line up as well. Although if you've cut them all the same size, that should be no issue. So now we've got a zipper sandwich with the stabilizer, and I have used a glorious lining piece because I really like this print. So I'm going to go back to joining stitch length, which for me is 2.5. And we're going to stitch and go back to the start and stitch over the original stitches. Now, there's a zipper right here. If you can, wiggle it out of the way. I can't, apparently. And then we're just going around that zip. Now, because I've got the lining side up, I can feel where the zipper teeth are. So I'm not stitching through them, and it's not even an issue. It is the hardest at the curves, but if you go slowly, you can feel the zipper teeth and push them out of the way if you have to. So So like right here, this bit's a little bit squishy. But I am going to get my stiletto because I don't cut zipper tape. I know some people do, and you are well within your rights to do it. I refuse because it tends to fray and carry on. So instead, I'm using the tip of my stiletto or sewing awl, depending on where you live is what you call it, and I'm pushing it out of the way of where the stitching is. I mean, it's a little bit slower than cutting zipper tape, but you're not going to have the problem of it potentially fraying on you when you try and turn it out. So then again, I'm up to the zipper pull. That was much easier when it's facing me to get up under there. And then stitch down to the end and back stitch. So to show you what that looks like, because we're going to turn it out anyway. Now it's going to be a bit tricky to turn because I've used stabilizer and vinyl and made it super duper stiff. But ta-da! It's adorable. Now I'm going to top stitch that to make it look even more adorable. I think that's what we're meant to do. Are we top stitching? I think we are. I'm going to anyway, because I think it's going to look fabulous. So again, I'm up to the 4. And because we've put so much decorative work into everywhere else, it would be almost silly not to top stitch here. And then I'm just going to turn the zipper up like this to make sure that it's not going to get under where I'm stitching. Now I did an 1/8 of an inch top stitching, but you can do more or less depending on what you're feeling. Look at that. Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, so now I'm going to take this one and center back. Clip this up. So center back, and we're going to put at least 3 clips. I'm also going to zipper this open again because it's going to make it more flexible at the edges. Now, I really need to read the instructions because I'm not sure what I'm doing with that bit. Unless I'm stitching it on, flipping it. That would make sense. So now that I've done the straight bit, I'm going to come down and do the bottom to make sure that it's going to line up when we get up the other way. Like that, and then do the same to the other side. Now this will take a lot of clips, but do it because it's worth it. If it can't shift while you're stitching, you've got less chance of it stuffing up. Which is obviously the goal here. Yep, hold on. I didn't get that properly in the center. There's the center. It was just a little smidgeny bit out and it was wrecking what I was trying to do. Right, sorry I'm pinning this in my lap. I find it easier to pin in front of me. Right, that is stitched. Now, I have a sneaking suspicion that we could just baste that and then turn it under and stitch it, and I wouldn't necessarily need this piece, but I'm going to read the instructions and double check that. I think I have a good plan, good grasp of what's going on, so I'm going to baste this down. Actually. Making sure that the zip is out of the way so we don't accidentally stitch it, because that would suck. Now, because I don't have a top piece on, it is much easier to see that I'm not stitching through the zipper tape, which obviously makes this a little bit quicker, which is nice. But you really just want to make sure that you're not getting the tape. It's very important to not sew through the zipper, because even if you unpick it, sometimes if you stitch through it incorrectly, you can damage it, and so then you'll have to take it all off and go again. And that's about when people start throwing things in the bin out of frustration. So, don't do that. Alright, so now that that is based on there, what we're going to do is we're going to grab some double-sided tape, some skinny stuff, and we're just going to put it right on that edge. And so then we can tuck it down and kind of secure it out of the way. That's going to be my first bit. You may not be able to just easily tuck it around the edges, so you might need to do this in sections of double-sided tape, which is fine. I just did mine in sections. So we're putting it right on the edge. Maybe. If the zipper tape or backing, sorry, double-sided tape backing wants to come off. Right. So then we're going to pull that down and basically tape that in and under like this, because we don't want to see the raw edges. We're kind of pulling it down past the zipper tape is the big plan. Double-sided tape is your friend. This is 6mm or 1/4 inch. I got mine from Spotlight. I think the Reject Shop sells this size as well. Right, so now the tape is down flat on the wrong side. So I'm going to take my main piece, and then what I've done is I've cut out the space that it says to, so that you can line this up You really need that to sit down like that. So that is going to sit there. And we are going to stitch I might start by stitching the bottom of it, actually. So you want it to sit there and there and be right in the center. So this is just the piece that it come with, and I just cut out that bit so I could see what I was doing. I'm going to sew it here to kind of hold it securely in place. Like that. Yeah, and something's going on with my bobbin. Oh look, it's another loop. And then we're going to zip the bobbin, zip this open, and we're going to top stitch around here. So I'm going to start here. No, that sounds chunky already. I can hear that. See? Big loops in the bobbin. You can hear it. The more you sew, the more you're in tune with your machine. So this time it didn't come out, but it made all the thread loose in the bobbin. Oh, and I think it's tied a knot. Right, let's try that again. Pop that under. And I'm going to lift this up, make sure I'm not stitching the paper. You're going to make sure that the bobbin, the underside is tucked away where you can't see it. And I'm just stitching right next to the zipper tape because it should be tucked under, so we should be catching everything and holding everything in place. And I'm just going from zipper tape to zipper tape there. Back stitching. Trimming off all the tails that are floating around. And then I'm going to have to stitch from here to here on the outside to hold that part down because I can't get in there. So I'm just going to do it on the outside. I'm going to zip this up out of the way. I reckon that's going to work out gloriously. And then other side. So we're tucking under that raw edge so that we're not going to see it later. But I'm just stitching on the accent bits. Like that. And that is now secure. You can't see any raw edges. Voila! How cool is that? That is a very cool pocket. On like that. Cool. We are done. I like it. Moving on to the zipper section. So, we need our zipper. We should have 2 zippers left, by the way. We should have this one and then our top one. We also need our pocket linings. So I've got those here as well. And the last, loose piece should be our top. So this is the idea that we're about to do. Trim off those tails. Excellent. I'm also going to zip this down just so that the zipper pulls it out of the way for what I'm trying to do. So I need it to close to the left. So I'm holding it how I want it to finish and then I'm going to flip it over. Are we touching it to the bottom one first? Yes. Do bottom and then the top bit. And then across. Use as many clips as is necessary. Again, this is a very slippery vinyl, so I want to use a lot of clips. It's not going to hurt anybody by using them all. And we're going to put one of our lining pieces also in that. So I just like to add it in. You can do all 3 at once if you have that skill. I do not have that skill. So I do 2 and then just quickly add the 3rd in like so. And now we're going to stitch across here. And as you get to the zipper pull, you're going to want to zip past it, so that it's out of the way. Like so, and then back stitch at the end. Trim your tails. And are we going to top stitch this? We are. It's always good to check if we're top stitching. So I'm going to fold both of those down. And I'm going to top stitch. And along we go. Then we're going to go back to a joining stitch length. We're going to add our top piece in. So again, right sides together. You can start left to right, right to left, middle and out. I'm going to zip this past down further so I can do a bit of stitching and then come back and add it in. Which is then mess with my zipper a little bit. So I need some more clips. There we go. And then I'm putting this one on here. Like this. Like this. That way. Right. Add it into right sides together. See? My brain's being tricky today. So like that. Stitch across there, and then we'll fold up that one and just top stitch on this single piece. I'm going to stop there, zip the zipper out of the way. Like that. Clean up my clips because they annoy me when they're out. And then back up to a decorative stitch length, and I'm going to fold it over this seam and just stitch this piece. Oh, I can already hear that's got issues. I guess I should just hold them like I'm meant to, and then we won't have these problems. Right. So I'm making sure I'm stitching over that seam allowance to hold it down flat. So now it closes to the left, and we just need to stitch up. I'm actually going to stitch the bottom of the pocket. Now, one is obviously a little bit bigger because that's just how it works. So I've just got this little bit extra, so I'm just going to grab some scissors and cut it so it's even. Like that. And then I'm going to stitch the bottom closed with a joining stitch length. Because I left my interior zipper pocket open, and then I can pull this down. Oh, it's gone a little bit wonky. That's okay. Don't worry about that. Oh, that will all be in the seam allowance. So I'm actually not worried. And that I am attributing to this very slippery vinyl. It's also stretchy, which is not helping my cause. I would not recommend this vinyl for beginners, but this is the last that I have of it, and then I probably won't have any more. Unless someone specifically orders it from me, I will not be going out of my way to get more of this. It is super pretty, but it is not super fun to work with. Alright, so we've done all of that. We are now up to final construction. Which means we need our exterior or our top zipper and all of our pieces. The tub will now be empty. So I'm going to start with this lining. And we want to line it up slightly in from the edge. So grab your ruler so that you can measure it out. And then I'm going to add clips along the top. Now I always put mine, in the pattern, she puts hers on the exterior first. I always put mine on the lining. because they're both right sides up and it just works better in my brain. If I try and do it the other way, usually I botch something. So for me, I always do it in the same order. And then when I get to here, I'm just going to pivot that down at a 90-degree angle. Like that. So that I won't sew the rest of the tail into the side and it's down and out of the way. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other lining piece. So I just need to line it up with my ruler. And then I'm going to clip it on. And you always want to start from the folded end because we've got that tail. So it's just easy to work in that direction. Right, and then I want to measure again this edge and then tuck it and then clip it so that everything is now going to match. Now I'm going to base that down because it'll be easier, much easier. So I'm just basting right on that edge line. I can't help myself but backstitch, but you probably didn't need to. Right, so I'm right on the edge so that you won't see these stitches when we do the next lot of stitching, but it's still going to hold it in place so that we don't need the clips to be doing too much work. Like that. Trim off the tails at the start. And so now we should literally just have 4 pieces. Did all of that. So now we want to, what are we doing? I'm trying to do it the same way as the pattern for the most part. We are going to stitch the lining to the exterior at the top. Now, I'm going to make sure that all my zips go the same way. So this zip is going to be opposite this one so that everything goes the same way. So I need to put this piece on the back so that the zipper will go the same way as this front zipper and everything matches. So that's something that you don't have to think about, but it's stuff that I do think about. Throwing everything away. So I'm now going to clip, and I'm going to make sure that that's still tucked down. I'm going to clip the lining to the exterior and go across there. But I don't need as many clips now because the zipper is already in place. So that just, to me, made it easier. You could have skipped it if you wanted to. So again, we're going to line this up here. Like that. And now we're just going to stitch along the top. What's our seam allowance? Because that's important too. Always pay attention to your seam allowance. Different patterns do different ones. Different brands do different ones. I switch it up in my own patterns, which I know is probably less helpful for you. But it's the seam allowance is usually done to help with easier construction. So make sure you pay attention to what the designer has chosen. They choose it for a reason, I promise. So I'm just going to chain sew this next one in. Probably shouldn't have let that fall down. It sometimes can disrupt your stitching, but we're okay. Voila. And now we're going to top stitch just the top edge. So I want to bring the seam allowance here under the vinyl, and then I'm going to top stitch. And I'm going to move the clips so that I don't knock them off the table, because that's the last thing we need to do today. And I'm on stitch length 4 again. my bag's probably going to look different to yours because of this bit here, but don't worry about it. Yours will probably look smoother lines. But if you've got leather, this is a great way to use leather. And you just join them all. You could have like a splotchy cowhide looking bag. That'd be really cool, actually. If I had more leather scraps, I would do that. I would have to do it on my cylinder arm though. This one probably couldn't handle that much leather. Okay, so we have top stitched just the outside. So the inside doesn't get top stitching. And the reason for that is, because I know you guys are going to ask me, it will distort here where the two fabrics meet. Because now what we're going to do is put both of these right sides together. And if you were to top stitch that under, you'll get like a weird bump here. So by only top stitching the outside, you're preventing that bump and you'll have a smoother, cleaner transition. I'm also going to clip my zip out of the way because it's in my way and I don't want to accidentally put it into the seam. So if I just clip it over like this, problem solved. So now we just go right sides together and we're going to clip everywhere. So I'm going to do the bottoms or the bottom. And then I'm going to come to this side and I want to line up where the fabric or the inside meets the outside. Because you want that to be smooth and even. So you want to put one clip on each side. So one on the vinyl side and one on the lining side. And then we're just going to add clips down the side here. Now, because this is my slip pocket that I'm turning through, what I actually want to do is kind of fold this over so it won't be in the whole seam. Now, it doesn't matter if it's in the seam up here, but we don't want the bottom to be in the seam because it makes it super difficult to try and turn through. So I'm just going to pull it out like that. It's not going to harm it in any way, and the seam allowance won't go into the pocket. So it's not really going to matter that I've turned it over, but I just want to do that so that it's easy to turn the bag through next. So again, we want to make sure that the vinyl and the lining are lined up perfectly. I'm going to steal that clip because it was in my line of sight. I know that's probably naughty, creating more work for myself, but I'm cool with it. So that's the lining side done. Now we're going to come down to the bottom. Now, keeping in mind, this is going to be quite thick on my machine. So I'm going to be going very slowly along that bottom because of all the bulk. But I reckon this machine will still do it. And I don't have to top stitch the bag, so that's going to help. I could not top stitch all of this bulk on this machine. It wouldn't handle it. But we don't need to, so it's fine. Now I have a sneaking suspicion I'm supposed to be turning in those bottoms. I think it's got like a cool bottom. So I'm just going to check that. Either way, I've clipped it. And you could just make the bag like that. But I'm pretty sure we're going to do like a cool thing at the bottom. We did that. We did that. Right sides together. I've done that. Yes, see, we do, but we still stitch it all first. So I'm going to move this tray off the counter. And I'm going to start. Now, she's left her gap in the bottom of the bag. Because I've done the pocket, I don't have to leave the thing in the bottom of the bag. If you wanted to, you could stitch this shut and then have it all the way in to the seams. It's your choice. I always like to turn through a pocket because that final seam is always hidden in the pocket. That's just my personal preference. So, off we go. Stitch, back stitch. But yeah, so she's turning the pattern. Oh, I just ran again. That's a lot of bobbin thread. Right, I'm going to need, whoops, another bobbin, and then we'll stitch around. bobbin has been replaced. So I'm going to start just back a couple of stitches from where I ran out of thread. And I'm not going to back stitch because I've learnt my lesson about that. And then we're going to just stitch around, needle down and pivot. So again, I'm holding this out for as much as possible. And then I can just stitch over that last little bit and it's fine. And then I can actually let that clip go if I want to. Now I'm going slower on this side because there's a bit of bulk, which is not a bad thing because I used vinyl, which was my choice. And then here is where we're going up onto that front pocket. So, slowly. Because again, I don't learn and I do everything out of vinyl. But that nice, consistent, slow sewing sounds like it was working fine. And you can always check on the back. I'm quite happy with that. There's no bumps, there's no issues, there's no wonky stitches at all. Then we're going to go up the other side. And again, slowly but consistently is a good way to not break your needle. And then again, we're coming up to the zipper. And it's a lot thinner here, so I can go a bit faster. And then I'm going to back stitch. And then deal with all of those tails at once. And so now, I know that looks weird, but if you just trim the seam allowance, it'll sit flat again. That snipping that I did is within the seam allowance. You're not going to see it inside the pocket. So voila. Now I want to cut some bulk out of the corners so that we get nice, clean turns. Like that. I'm going to do this end as well. You definitely want your vinyl scissors for this. Right. In the bin. Now, do I have to do anything else? We were supposed to turn it up before. Well, that doesn't work out. So I was supposed to only stitch the bottom and then do that bottom thing like I thought I was supposed to do. But that's okay. This will still work. Yep. I also don't think that I could have stitched that extra with that thickness. If we're totally honest, I don't think my machine could handle it. That is just way too thick of a vinyl. So this vinyl has felt backing on it as well. So the easiest way to turn a bag is to get your lining to basically engulf the bag like this. If you can get it to the point where everything fits in that lining, it all turns through really quickly after that. So I always just grab some random inside part and just slowly pull it apart. Now you're not trying to use as much force as possible. I'm kind of more rolling it with my hand. Now I don't think I'm going to get that bottom tuck, which is unfortunate, but I did kind of expect that. That is very thick. And then I'm going to put my hand back into the bag to push out this bottom. So I won't have the 3D thicker bottom, but that's okay. I can always make another one another day and show you guys how to do that. That's just, it's too thick for that. That's not going to happen. And that was my choice to use vinyl, and so I possibly should have looked into that. But on the other hand, I have now looked into it for you. So I'm just going to give it a quick Tory squish. I'm actually going to need my pliers for this because of the bulk and how thick it is right there, but that's okay. I can do this up now. Oh, it looks so good. This is an awesome bag. And then, before I turn everything and push the lining inside, I'm just going to take the pocket, tuck under those raw edges, and stitch it shut. Now, if you were doing that, if you left the gap in the bottom of the bag, you're going to do the same thing. But you would have stitched in a little bit, so it should make the turn through nice and easy for you. And you just want to try and stitch, I try and stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. You can obviously do more or less depending on your skill level. If you're a beginner, you might want to do 1/4 inch, but just make sure you've got at least that much fabric tucked under. Otherwise, you'll stitch and it'll still come undone. But the closer you can get to the edge, in my opinion, the neater it looks. Minus that bird's nest that happened at the start. But I can just cut that out. Like so. And then give the ends of the thread a little bit of a melt. Like that. And tuck your pocket in. Sorry, I'm trying to not do it in my lap. It's just easier in my lap. I don't mean to do it. Right, and then I'm going to push the lining down into the bag. Like so. Look at that. I like it. So we've got a couple of things left to do. One is put the zipper on, which I don't have zipper ends here yet, so I've got a piece of vinyl. And then 2 is to rivet these on. So I'm actually going to do the riveting before I do the zipper, because I always like to do the zipper last. So if it's out of the way, it's sometimes and mostly just easier. So the first thing I want to do is find the halfway point, like that. And so that halfway point needs to sit at that seam there. And then I'm just going to grab some Wonder Clips to hold it in place. And we're going to rivet this there and there. And we're going to do the same to this end as well. So I may as well hold it all in place, and then I can just do all the riveting and then all the hole punching and riveting at the same time. Which for me, it probably doesn't matter as much for me, but if you've only got one cam press to do all these things, you definitely want to do it all at once. See? So that's going to go there. Like that. I'm going to clip those together. And so then I'm going to rivet here, and I'm going to rivet here. Now, does she do 2 rivets or just the 1? We can just do the 1. Grab the handy dandy hole punch and some rivets. Okay, so I've got caps and rivets. I'm going to start with the easy end, which is obviously where the zippers are not. And then just under we go and punch. And then while I'm here, I also want to put a rivet and a cap on so that it won't shift. Now I don't have to squish it yet, but by doing that, I can actually take off the Wonder Clips, which might make it even easier to get into there. And so then the second one, I'm going to put that through and put a cap on. And then we're going to do the same to the other side. under we go. Hole punch. In and cap on. And then the fourth one. So again, you want to really make sure that the zipper tape is not under where we're hole punching. It's very important not to hole punch your zipper tape. You're going to have to undo a lot of stitching if you accidentally do that. So 1, ouch, and then 2 on the back. So now that they're all just kind of held in place, you can grab your other one, and now we just need to squish them. So we still want to be delicate with the bag so that they don't come undone or you don't drop one. So there is our rivets on, and they look awesome. And I've used the small D-rings so that they also don't sit out as much, and I kind of like that plan too. So lastly, we're going to bring the zip together. Now I always start from here and bring my hand out to make sure that there is no twist, because you don't want to twist. So I'm going to do that and hold it. Then I put this in my lap so I can get down to a good level, and I'm going to put half in, and it usually goes in more than you need. And then I'm going to kind of pinch it to go back to get to the halfway point, and then I'm going to put in my other half of the zip and zip it up. And I want to make sure that this end is even. If I haven't zipped it even, I will just unzip it and zip it again and again and again until it is correct, but we're good. So I'm happy with that. So now we just need to take our, if you've got a zipper end, fold under, stick your zipper end on, screw it up. I don't, so we're going to make a zipper end out of vinyl. So I'm just going to put some double-sided tape long ways. Now this is the width of the tape and then double the width of the tape. So when I fold it over, I'm going to get a square. You can make it more or less. You can do fancy shapes. World your oyster. There. So then I'm just going to slot it in. I'm going to hold it in half and then push the tape all the way to the back like so, and then squish it down. And you may need some clips to hold it in place because the video I did the other day, it moved. You can also tuck the zipper tape in. So how I was showing you before, you can actually tuck it in to the sides like this. Oop, if I could lift it up, oh my goodness. So you can tuck it in like that and then put the top on. And then you won't see the zipper tape all the way down the bottom here. And then I'm going to add some clips just to hold it. Again, so it doesn't come off like yesterday. I don't want to play that game. So 3 is probably enough. 3 is actually probably overkill. And then we want to make sure we're up at a decorative stitch length because we don't want to over perforate our vinyl. Now I'm going to start at the top here and go down, across, up, and do over the zipper tape last. I used to do it first. I have discovered that I don't like doing it first anymore. So I'm going to manually crank the first 3 so I can go back through that same hole. And then I'm going to needle down and pivot across the end. And then up the other side. And then bring the bag around to go across the zipper tape like that, and then back stitch. Trim off those tails and grab your adjustable strap, oops, and attach it to your D-rings. And look at that. How cute does that come out? Even though I didn't do the bottom, I still think that that is fabulous. So I've got this zipper here and this top one going the same way. And then when you open the bag, I've got that one going the same way as well. because I put the thought in as we were going. It doesn't matter if it doesn't, but it's just one of those like fun little extra bits. So anyway, that is the bag. I hope that was helpful. Please have a go. This was really fun to do. I actually really enjoyed making this. All right, guys,